we need to talk. So there's a debate going around the internet. I'm sure you've seen it. Instagram, TikTok, wherever. 100 average humans versus one silverback gorilla. And I think it's a stupid question. I really do. For shits and giggles, when I was at work today, I did a little survey, right? So I ended up getting 30 votes. Here's my detailed graph of the responses. We got 13 votes for gorilla and 17 votes for the 100 people. Honestly, I think that's closer than it should be. It really is. I think it's time to settle this. So, I am 87% certain 100 people could beat a silverback gorilla in a fight. You know what? No, I'm going to bump it up to 97% sure. Maybe there's a slim chance that the gorilla wins. But that's not very likely. It's really not. I got a few reasons. Number one, 100 people is a lot of fucking people. I highly doubt a gorilla would have enough energy to make it through 100 people. You know, I'm sure it would be swinging away for the first 20 people maybe. But gorillas have a lot of muscle, and a lot of muscle takes a lot of energy to move around. The sheer amount of people could probably pin down the gorilla, you know. Probably if you could wrestle it onto the ground and everybody jumps on top of it and shit. And maybe, just maybe, they might be able to crush it to death. Because 100 people is a lot of people. What's the average person weight? We'll just say like 150 pounds. You know, you got 100 of that. What's that? That's 15,000 pounds on top of that gorilla. I don't think a gorilla could handle that. That's me, just me personally. I don't think they could. Reason number two, gorillas, they're a primate, right? They're one of the great apes. They're pretty closely related to us. They're smart, but they're not human smart. Gorillas, they don't make calculated decisions, right? Gorillas don't have a form or a technique to how they fight. They just kind of, you know, they run at you. They just get pissed and they swing their arms. They try to bite you and shit. You know, let me throw a little example up. So if you just watch that, right? They weren't boxing or nothing. They didn't have their guard up, you know. They weren't ducking punches. They were just swinging, right? That one jumped in the air. Like I don't know, you're trying to hit a trick shot or what, but he just jumped in the air. You know, they're just swinging away. So they're not thinking about what they're doing. They're just doing. You know, they're animals. I'd say it's more instinct than just like thought behind their punches. Humans are more technical creatures. You know, we might not be as muscular. We're not as strong. We don't have as much weight on average. But we're more technical, you know. We have fighting forms. We can analyze what the gorilla is doing, its patterns. You know, there's not really much pattern, I guess, to how they fight. We could look for its weak points. You know, we're technical. We analyze shit. Number three, kind of building off that last point. That was weird. The humans have a massive numbers advantage. You know, 100 versus 1. That's a big difference. Since all the humans, I feel like it would be physically impossible for every human to be fighting the gorilla at once, you know. There's just not enough space around the gorilla. But that might be good. As the first people, since we can't all attack it at the same time, the first people are fighting the gorilla, right? We might just have to accept those first two people. They might just be a loss. They might be a loss, you know. But, you know, a win isn't calculated by how many humans it kills if it can't kill all of them, you know. All the humans have to die in order for the gorilla to win. So the first ones are just a loss. We'll take that. We'll eat that. But the humans who aren't in the fight can watch the fight. They get to see what's going on. They see what the gorilla's doing. They see its preferred method of attack. And we can watch the humans that are fighting. We can see what mistakes they're making. If they're getting too close, if they're not being aggressive enough, if they're not attacking the right spot. You know what I'm saying? Here is a detailed attack strategy. That's my high detail diagram of how we attack. This is just one strategy that we could use. It's just a thought, you know. Gorillas in the middle. The first group of humans surround the gorilla everybody goes in at once. You know, we start throwing haymakers. I think the key to victory is our elbows. You know, elbows, the sharpest bone in the body. I say we start throwing elbows, probably not into its head. It's got a big, thick head. It's kind of built for that shit. So I'd say go for like maybe like at the back. Maybe it's sides. You know, I feel like those might be weak spots. Another good point I've heard. We have everybody surround the gorilla, right? Everybody's going for it. People grab onto it. Somebody pokes out the gorilla's eyes. So now one of the gorilla's senses are just gone. They can't see. I feel like that would probably piss it off. So it would probably just be wildly swinging, but it can't actually see what it's swinging at. So taking away one of the gorilla's senses right off the bat, I feel like that'd be a great strategy, and I feel like it wouldn't be that hard. You know, a bunch of people go at it, poke its eyes. It's pretty easy to accomplish, I feel like. Another strategy I thought of, if the first group surrounds the gorilla, right? Everybody else, pardon me, you hear of it at concerts, right? There's big groups of people and the people in the middle of the crowd. Like the movement of all the people together is like crowd crush, I think they call it. So basically, they like suffocate the gorilla almost, or like the entire crowd pushes in. Oh shit, I just punched my mic. The entire group of people pushes into the center, which is where the gorilla is, and it eventually just crushes the gorilla. It kind of goes off of the other one where like you can pile on top of the gorilla, but like without piling on top of it. I feel like this would be easier to accomplish because it would be pretty hard to stack 100 people on top of that gorilla. But if you get it in the middle of a group and have everybody pushing towards the center, you know, just shoulder charging right into the middle, I feel like eventually it would get crushed to death. So that's another one. I think people overestimate the gorilla's potential. You know what I mean? Like they're strong and stuff, but like, let me pull up a picture because I feel like they're big, but they're not as big as everybody just like thinks. So this is the average Eastern gorilla, silverback gorilla. Eastern silverback gorilla. That's the average. This one is the maximum, 96 centimeters, which for all you Americans out there like myself, that's about 6'5", I think. It's about 6'5". That's the maximum recorded size. 175, 5.75 feet. So about 5'9" on average is their height standing up. You know, most of the time the gorilla is going to be probably on all fours, so probably be closer to like 4.5 feet tall, but 65 kgs. Now that's a big weight. That's a big weight, you know. 1 kg is like 2.2 pounds, so 165 lbs 2 kg. Oh wait, I'm a dumbass. I flipped that. Okay, 363 pounds. So that's a pretty good weight, you know. 219 is what, 450 pounds, something like that. That's a lot of weight. But you know, 100 average humans will be like over 10,000 pounds. So is it really a fair fight? I feel like in my head, the humans take this like every time. There might be one situation out of 100 where the gorilla somehow wins, you know. Maybe the lottery for people that get drawn to fight this gorilla are all very, very weak and very small. I don't know. But I'd say 99 times out of 10, 100 humans are beating a gorilla. Point blank, period. But feel free to disagree with me. Let me know if you think I'm an idiot. Let me know what you think in the comments. Like and sub.